Hi, I'm Marc Bates, and I'm a metabolic health coach. And people ask me often, how do you get the content? Where did this come from? And it comes from questions people have asked me over the years. So I've started a new series, the question and answer series, where we'll address specific questions and give you the answers. Okay, here's the first one. When most people think about plant foods causing metabolic problems, they focus on sugar content or processing. You're suggesting lectins represent a fundamentally different mechanism of harm. What makes lectins uniquely problematic compared to other plant compounds that affect human metabolism? Great question. So let's answer it. Yes, lectins represent a fundamentally different mechanism of harm compared to sugar or processed food components. While sugars primarily disrupt metabolism via glycemic load and insulin signaling, lectins, carbohydrate binding proteins found in many plant foods, affect health through immunological and cellular interference, particularly in the gut and insulin related pathways. Here's what makes lectins uniquely problematic. 1. Molecular mimicry and receptor binding. Lectins bind specifically to carbohydrate structures on cell surfaces. This allows them to disrupt insulin signaling by mimicking or antagonizing insulin at its receptor. For example, wheat germ agglutinin, WGA, binds to insulin receptors and can either stimulate or block insulin activity depending on concentration. Right? This leads to insulin problems. Right? 2. Alter immune signaling and trigger inflammation. Right? So they help increase cytokines, which help trigger inflammation, such as, and you'll hear these in health circles, TNF alpha and IL 6 Ben. Okay? 2. Increased gut permeability, otherwise known as leaky gut. Lectins can directly damage the intestinal epithelium. They bind to the glycocalyx, a carbohydrate-rich protective layer in your gut and intestines, and disrupt tight junction between cells. The cells are really tight and nothing gets through. But if you can disrupt that and the cells break apart, bacteria and food particles can get through and go into your bloodstream, which is bad. This leads to increased intestinal permeability, allowing bacteria and inflammatory molecules to enter circulation, contributing to systematic inflammation. Okay, 3. Triggering autoimmunity and systematic inflammation. Lectins are known to aggravate or trigger conditions like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, IBS, and other autoimmune disorders. Notice all of these have one thing in common. They're all in the gut. Patients with these conditions often experience symptom relief when removing lectin-rich foods. Okay, 4. Insulin resistance via inflammation and receptor desensitization. By promoting chronic low-grade inflammation in fat tissue, lectins induce insulin resistance, particularly in adipocytes. That's your fat tissue, a place you don't want insulin resistance. And 2, they impair normal lipid metabolism, promoting fat accumulation even without caloric surplus. Right? They help add to the fat. Okay, 5, poorly neutralized by cooking. Though methods like pressure cooking can reduce lectin content up to 95%, they cannot eliminate it entirely. Residual lectins can still affect sensitive individuals, and that's very important. And to even get that 95%, you've got to soak the beans first, overnight, if not longer. You've got to cook them to death, and then you still can't get rid of the lectins. Okay? In contrast, sugar and processed carbs, which is what most people are concerned with, mainly promote spikes in blood glucose and insulin, lipogenesis, fat storage, and dysregulation of hunger hormones like leptin and ghrelin. Not good things, but very different from the problems that lectins cause you. These are metabolic stressors, but they don't directly mimic hormones or damage cell junctions as lectins do. Okay, so quickly, in summary, lectins are not just another plant anti-nutrient. They hijack cellular communication, damage the gut barrier, and mimic hormonal functions. Their impact is subtler, but potentially more insidious, especially in metabolically or immunologically compromised individuals, right? This makes them a distinct and significant factor in the plant-based contributions to metabolic diseases. Okay, thank you very much. Please like, subscribe. It helps the channel a great deal. Appreciate it.